Hey everybody, welcome to Defcamp's Garage. On this episode, we're going to teach you how to bury bodies. Just kidding, everybody. Welcome to DefTalk, the talk show that focuses on everything World of Warcraft, whether it's classic, retail, or the players that play it. Today we have with us, of course, you all know Melderon.
Hi.
Say hi. And our very special guest today, Tips Out Baby. How you doing, Tips?
Good, man. How you doing, man?
We're doing good, man. Really glad to have you. So for those of you who everybody here probably knows Tips. For those of you guys who don't know Tips, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Tips?
I make classic WoW videos on YouTube. I started a couple months back, right after the announcement. I'm just like getting all caught up in the moment with the emotion of the announcement and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And make classic WoW videos on content, circulating the game, some meta level stuff, and some guides here and there. But just stuff like that. YouTube, I stream on Twitch as well. Nice. Twitch.tv/tipsoutbaby. Sorry for the plug.
No, we got it right under you, baby.
We got it right under your thing. So,
yeah. Awesome. But yeah, that's it.
Awesome. So for those of the guys who I actually didn't know this until we just spoke, but when did your WoW career start as a player?
So
and how did you get brought to it?
I remember it like it was yesterday, dude. It was Thanksgiving vacation in 2004. I was in high school at the time.
Nice.
And I remember we had this crazy school project that me and a friend had to do. And even the months before WoW launched, we knew that WoW was coming out, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to get it until the summer because, parents and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But he had some of those chill parents that didn't really care how much you played video games during the week,
Still envious of those parents.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. Ridiculous. But so he got it right away, and he played the first day, and then the next day was like the first day of the vacation, and we were like, let's get our project done early, let's get it done on time. I went over to his house. He had it set up on one computer and on the other. He got one for his brother too, and his brother, I guess, didn't like it right away. So I ended up playing that whole day, and he let me use his brother's account. Don't ban me, Blizzard. And basically, for 6 months, I played on his account, his brother's account, until that summer I got my own account. And then from there, basically.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's been a
so
long time.
envious, dude. Me and my brother have talked about like this to other people who have started playing in the beginning. And that we didn't start playing until like patch 1.8, 1.9. So that's one of my biggest like regrets is that I didn't get to play in the beginning because, what was it like when you first started playing?
To be honest, and like full disclosure, right? Full transparency. We talk a lot about like patch 1.1 versus 1.6 versus 112. Me, as a 15-year-old high school kid at the time, I wasn't cognizant of like all of these different like discrepancies.
Yeah.
There are some things I remember here and there. Like I distinctly remember on the Mage Arcane talent tree that Arcane Explosion had to have 5 points in it to be instant cast.
Correct. Yeah.
Like small things here and there. But I guess at the time, because even though I played some MMOs before, they were never on the level of World of Warcraft. I didn't understand the concept of patching so frequently and updating the game and changing the game. Every time something would change, I thought to myself, well, maybe I just didn't remember it before. Maybe it was always like this, and maybe I just misread it or something like that. Right. So I never really felt like the game was changing aside from the content that was released.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Personally. I think you bring up a very excellent point. So there's a lot of people who started in vanilla, but there's a very large portion of those people who started in vanilla who were so new to MMOs and to the game in general that like I didn't know what a patch was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was coming
all
from
over your head.
Yeah. So when I started playing, I was like, oh, things were changed. I didn't understand the concept of changing abilities and the meta until like late Burning Crusade. To be honest, I was such a noob that I didn't really. That's a good point. So what was your first character in faction?
Well, on that day one that I rolled with my friend at his house, I made an undead warlock, and then like after just experimenting for a couple of months, tried a gnome mage because why not?
Yeah.
A human warrior, but then also a Tauren druid, an orc rogue, and then finally when I got my version of the game that summer, I rolled an undead warlock for the vast majority of vanilla, and then I switched to human warrior towards the end.
Nice.
Cool.
Did you get to do any endgame content at all, or PvP?
No, during vanilla, PvP, a lot of PvP. So the day I bought the game was the day that Warsong Gulch came out. So
okay.
I remember I bought the game, and it's funny, Phil, right?
Yes.
He's Phil, yeah.
I'm Phil, yes. Yeah.
It's funny, Phil. You said like, you weren't, understanding of the concept of patches. I was the same way. So like, I've been playing the game, but I installed it, very, very early on. And then when these patches came out, I didn't understand what these patches were. But I just thought about that for a second.
Yeah.
So I remember the Warsong Gulch patch coming out, and literally back then you had to queue up at a specific portal in Northern Barrens if you aren't Horde. You couldn't like queue up anywhere outside of the world. You had to literally wait in front of this portal with the rest of your server.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, my Warlock, I got him pretty, leveled pretty quickly to 29, and I just did BGs for like 3 months, level 29 BGs, because like it was so fun, it was so new, and the experience of sitting in front of that portal with everybody else on your server was like unparalleled. Like I've never seen anything like it. Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, that would be epic in real life. You know what I mean? Think about that many people standing in the thing.
Man.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt you, but that's something that's really important that I think no one really realizes. Yeah.
I know, man. It's just like it's incredible. Like even in vanilla, by the end of vanilla, a lot of things started changing. I think some things for the better, but some things start to get a little bit more streamlined.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just insane, small things like that. And I ended up playing, all the way through until like a month or two before TBC. I took a break just because of school and stuff like that. But I got to level 51 on my main, 43 on that human warrior that I talked about, bunch of level 40s, druids, rogues. I mean, I never felt compelled to get to the end game because the game was so fun just playing it.
Yeah.
Yep. We talked about that.
Raiding was cool. Yeah, like it's just raiding was cool. It was that thing, if I get there, I get there sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the journey was so great that I never felt like pushed to get there.
Yep.
I think that's a really good point. Raiding to me, as a new player, was very esoteric to the point where it was like kind of like it was something that these people did, that these higher echelon of players did that I didn't even have the concept of understanding. And the most I did 5-man dungeons, right? Or that to me was like, wow, this is amazing. And I think that's a very excellent point. Is that I didn't really appreciate raiding. I raided in BC, but I didn't appreciate raiding until Wrath, and it took me an expansion and a half to really get it. It's a really interesting point. The leveling game is amazing in vanilla. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard. I don't know who said it, but like they said, I'm going to do a raid, and in my head I thought they said they're going to a rave. I'm like, they have raves in WoW. I'm like, what the hell do you do? Like, do I just sit there and dance around? Like, that's not all it is. They're going to a rave, but yeah, it wasn't until I got to go into MC and I did ZG towards the end. But for me, like I feel like vanilla in particular is really the only time in WoW where like leveling is just as big as endgame.
Mm-hmm.
It's just as big a part of WoW as endgame is, and getting to like level 29 and doing a BG, and getting in there, that felt like that might be your whole day, like just doing BGs, and you go in there and everyone's kind of on the same page. It's not like and playing back then where things weren't so the way they are today, where everything's cookie cutter and everything's you got to do it this way. It was more of like people just running around exploring, and it just had a different feel to it. But
I agree.
Yeah.
And there's that group of people that endgame is everything, and they race to level, right? But there's a huge amount of people with leveling's a huge part of their experience, and they'll spend time doing that. And maybe eventually we'll do endgame content, but to them they want to take their time, and I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the great part about vanilla is the game itself. It never felt like it was behind you, pushing you forward. Like it never made you feel like you were in a hurry. Like it's funny, the modern game, you log in ever since Cataclysm, you've got your quest objective trackers on your map. It tells you to kill these kobolds. It points exactly where they are on the map, and it even highlights the area where they can spawn.
Mm-hmm.
The game like literally forces you, and it even numbers each objective tracker, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like a list.
That's a great point.
So like from the moment you log in today, the game is telling you, hurry, just go do this. Like it's right here, do your checklist, and then you'll get to the good stuff. And then when you get to the good stuff, again, it's just pushing you. Go through LFR, do your dailies, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, man, I don't appreciate the end game in modern WoW. But maybe if I wasn't so compelled to get there, I could appreciate everything along the way, and the end game would be better too. But
absolutely, man, I feel you with that. That is, you said that really well. It's like it's everything feels like a rush today, and on retail, and it's for me, it's like the leveling process is almost become a burden, and it's all about getting to end game and doing the mythic rating and doing the mythic pluses, and if you're not doing that, you're a pleb, whatever. It's just like, it's but it's become like that's what's ruined it for me. In the same time, it's taken all the fun away from the game that I loved, and it's it was challenging to do mythic raids, and it was challenging to do high level mythic keys and stuff like that, but I wasn't feeling like I was being rewarded. I just felt like I was doing it because that was expected of me, and that was the only reason I did it.
Yeah. That's a good
But
point. So you briefly mentioned retail. I know you do. I think you still stream retail sometimes. And I was just wondering, I think it's important that you are, because I think what you're doing is you're a classic WoW player that's bringing classic WoW, bringing the message to the retail community. And I think it's very important that people like you are doing that, you and SFan and other streamers. But how do you feel about? So you kind of already answered this, but how do you feel jumping into the retail world, as opposed to classic? Like, what's the big difference there? I mean, do you like it? Do you dislike it? Are there things you do like? Things like that.
So a lot of times, what I say is I think the modern game is probably the greatest action MMO ever made. I give it that wholeheartedly. The dungeons, if you look at them on an individual level, very well designed. They're challenging when you get into the Mythic Plus and stuff like that. It's not that it's bad content. The content of WoW in the modern days is great. But again, it's a great action MMO, but is it a true MMORPG? No, it's not. And after being exposed to vanilla WoW, and even after it was released, right, on those illegal servers, it's just gotten to a point with me where I can no longer play games without progression or high-level competition. And I feel like I don't get a sense of progression from the modern game. I don't feel like I'm climbing a ladder and slowly moving forward and building my character's power. I just don't feel it that way. Whereas in the old game, I do. So that's what I'm looking for in an experience, which is why I prefer classic WoW. But at the same time, I can't deny that, again, in that category, in that genre of action-based, lobby queued MMOs, WoW is the best that it is. I'm just not looking for that kind of game.
Okay, so you streaming retail, and you having, I'm assuming there's a lot of retail players, or maybe specifically retail players who watch your streams. Do you feel like your passion for classic WoW is like kind of moving into those people, or are you having an effect on the retail community? Because there is a big difference between the communities. We've seen that. Not to say that it's a bad thing, but I just think that people like you are really bridging the gap. And do you feel like you're seeing an effect of that?
I'd like to think so, honestly. I do get messages every now and then, especially on the Why It Was Great videos. I get messages from people saying, "Oh my God, we've never played vanilla, and we never thought about it that way," or "Oh, I didn't really know that. So that seems interesting," and stuff like that. And ultimately, I do believe that at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and I do think there are some things in Classic that, despite it being a 15-year-old game and in a different era and stuff like that, I do think there are a lot of things in Classic that do appeal to the modern WoW community, regardless. You know what I mean? So I do see some bridges being built, which I think is fantastic. I think the most important thing, when it comes to just having a great gaming experience, is to build a positive community. And the more positive we can be, the more, outreaching we can be to retail, even though we might not enjoy the game as it is. I think the better overall the community is going to be come Classic launch.
Yep. I'll tell you what, too, like, I've watched you and SFan and Stay Safe a while with Classic Cast and everything, and I think you guys in particular have a very good way in listening to someone who might come out and say, "Oh, you guys are idiots for this. This is stupid. This, that, and the other," and have their own opinions. And you kind of say, "Okay, I understand," or I understand your point of view, but this is why I think this way, this and that, and you kind of explain it in a way that isn't really, it's not argumentative, it's not kind of in their face, and it's, I can see someone from the other side looking at what you say and kind of sitting there and being like, okay, he makes sense, you know what I mean? And it's not kind of in your face.
You're non-adversarial.
You're an idiot for saying that, and I think that's really important because it gives the classic WoW community a face, a reasonable face, that we're all not just out there to get everyone's throat. We want, things are going to be our way, and if you're in our way, we're going to kill you kind of thing. But the thing is, we're passionate people. We're all passionate about this game that we love. Whether you're on the retail side or the classic side, this is all the game we love. And I think you guys kind of see that and kind of, in a way, are able to explain, well, this is why I think this way. I've played it and I've, done this and that. And, I respect your opinion and I hope you respect mine, but also kind of show why you think your way is, in your opinion, the right way or so. But I think you guys do it in such a way that is very, not in your face. And I think for that, you guys should definitely be credited because and before that it was a lot of there's a lot of bad stigma that goes with the classic WoW stigma. That's unfortunate. I don't think it's really deserved. I just think you get people that are very passionate and opinionated and very emotional, and it's been a rough ride, this whole classic thing. And of course it's a community. You have bad people in the community, you have good people, and it's just how it is. And sometimes the negative voice is louder than the positive, but you guys have definitely been a positive voice. So you did a good job with that.
I appreciate it. And big shout out to S-Fan and Stay Safe, my homies on the Classic Cast. Absolutely. And yeah, man, like, honestly, I'm glad I met those guys. And I dig what you're saying, Matt. Like, I feel like overall, I've always felt like the Classic community was a very positive community. And I know that some negativity came out, over the past, a year or so. But at the same time, I don't want to even fault the people that were negative, only because for a while it really sucked. Like, my first stint with Vanilla after it was released, was in 2010, right? Mm-hmm. So that was my second time through. And when I played it that first time, honestly, on that particular realm, it sucked, right? It wasn't like the realms of today. Yeah. But then over the years, I played it more and more, and it got better and better. And I saw how, the emulation community was improving and improving and improving. And I realized that, this was an amazing game. And it started to hurt that, this company, this multi-billion-dollar conglomerate was not, acknowledging the greatness of one of their previous titles and not giving it to the community. Yeah. So I'm not going to lie, I try to be as positive as I can, but, even I indulge that, that, oh man, come on, what's going on, Blizzard, sort of mentality. Yeah. And for so many years, it felt like the community was being ignored. I'm glad, however, that it seems like that's turned around, or at least I hope so. But I appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, no problem. So, interesting point you brought up about the release and about what's going to happen. How big do you think Classic's going to be?
Without being hyperbolic, without being, crazy exaggeration, I think this is a very reasonable estimate. I think it's going to get at least 6 million people to play it in that first year. Mm-hmm. And especially, it all depends on whether or not they link the subscriptions together between the modern game and the classic game. But if they do decide to have some kind of hybrid subscription model where you can access both with just one subscription, that you're going to have everybody that's on retail at least going to try Classic WoW for the first couple of months. And then obviously you're going to have the millions that have just been so disenfranchised by the game over the years. They're all going to come back. Yeah. So, I mean, I've got to say, Soda Pop and Lyric, Summit 1G, Shroud, Ninja, for God's sake. Right. Asmongold, of course. You've got guys that, just they have such a large influence, and they have such a large influence over a new audience, a younger audience that never played WoW to begin with. It's going to be such a cultural tidal wave in the gaming community, perhaps beyond what it was originally. Yep. I think, if it succeeds and it does well, I think it could potentially be bigger than it ever was during Vanilla.
I agree. Yeah.
But we'll see what happens, but I definitely have a very positive outlook. 6 million plus, easily.
I feel you. I definitely think that it's going to become the prominent version of WoW. Mm-hmm. And, I think I made a video that's recently about just MMOs in general and how we, as a community, as the MMO community, have kind of been putting everything up against what WoW was, and that's the standard, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think anything can beat that standard. I don't think anything can come close to it. Even retail, I feel, is fighting that standard every day. The only thing that can give us what we want is Classic. And I think for the most part, the MMO community is just going to, say, well, of course, this is the game we all love. This is what we held everything up to, and this is it. Like, this is the game that we all wanted, and that's what Classic is to me. And I hope it can be that to all these other people who have been waiting for a game. Seeing all these MMOs come out and fail, and is this going to be the WoW killer? Is this going to be it? Is this going to be it? I don't think anything else can do it except for Classic. So I hope I hope it does succeed, and I hope it does go the route that I think it can go. But yeah, it's awesome to hear. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, like how other MMOs have are they maybe trying to be like WoW too much, or are they trying? You know what I mean? It's just like, what is the issue? Why are so many MMOs failing? And I think it's just the legacy that Classic has and the standard that it's left. It's just what can compete with it,
Yeah, on the subject of other MMOs, like what happened was, I guess for sort of background real quick. So I was when I got into World of Warcraft, and even before, like with RuneScape Classic and Ultima Online, I fell in love with MMOs, and that's it. Like, forget any other game. I have to play a progression-based game. Yeah. And so I would follow, even from like Warhammer Online, Aeon, I would follow all of the new MMOs that would come out, after World of Warcraft did. Mm-hmm. You basically have two generations of MMOs that came out after WoW. You have the generation up until Guild Wars 2 in 2012. That was like generation 1 from 2004 to 2012. Then you have the 2012 to modern day MMOs, which are a little bit different.
Yeah.
The modern MMOs mostly have failed because of cash shop problems. Mm-hmm. Pay to win garbage, always, whether it be Arcade, Black Desert Online, you name it, even Guild Wars 2 to an extent, Star Wars The Old Republic turned that way too. The modern generation, just because of how much microtransactions have become a prominent thing in the gaming industry, they've kind of failed. They've set themselves up for failure, Mm-hmm. The previous generation, from 2004 to 2012, the biggest names started to come out in 2008 and beyond that. You had Guild Wars 2, Star Wars The Old Republic, Aeon Online came around that time too in like 2007, 2008. Those games were trying to copy Wrath of the Lich King or trying to copy the End of the Burning Crusade. And so no game came out after WoW that was trying to copy Vanilla WoW. No game tried to design their game like Vanilla WoW. The only one that supposedly tried was WildStar, and even then they got it completely wrong. They have no idea what made Vanilla great.
Yeah.
So I see the MMO industry as kind of like a chicken with its head cut off. Mm-hmm. They had no idea what made Vanilla great. They thought they were just going to capitalize on this huge, market base.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but hopefully with the resurgence of Classic WoW and its success, maybe developers, Blizzard themselves even scratch their heads and they go, hold on a second, maybe there is something magical about this. Maybe if we study this, we can bring out something else that's better.
Yeah, I think that the inevitable success of Classic WoW is going to make a huge statement to the world. It's going to make a huge statement to the MMO community. That's right. It's going to be like, this is what we want, and this is what we've wanted for years. And it's going to be a huge statement. But you said something that made me want to ask you another question. What, in your opinion, made Vanilla great? I think we all know, but what is your take on it? What made Vanilla great?
I mean, I it's funny. I try to come off like I know what I'm talking about in my Why It Was Great videos. It's all like those videos are almost like a byproduct of my own self-reflection. Like,
They're great videos. They're great videos. Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. Like I try to really think about it. It's like, okay, why am I enjoying this versus that? And finally, after 15 plus years or whatever, I feel like I'm starting to grasp a little bit why it was great. And I think fundamentally it boils down to things that you just don't see today, like, delayed gratification, a proper risk versus reward ratio, where content is in vanilla, dude, you can die at level 3 in the freaking starting zone. You know what I mean? Like, there's a certain amount of risk. And as a result, the more risk there is, the more reward there is in vanilla. The ability to gain prestige, special snowflake syndrome. People make fun of it all the time, but I think that's what MMOs are all about,
Absolutely.
Competing with everybody on your server, everybody around you. Trying to be the best, the High Warlord, the Grand Marshal, the full Nax, Tier 3, decked out. You're able to kind of make yourself stand out in vanilla, which is just something you can't do today in MMOs. And then obviously the community. Being able to talk to people that are in front of you without them sharding on to another instance. Being able to compete with those people out in the world, being able to, talk to people, for God's sake. Like, dude, like every MMO you play today, it's got the queue lined up, ready to go. Don't even worry about it. You don't have to say a word. For God's sake, they could be bots. You know,
They could be.
bots.
Absolutely.
You know, you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't. I'd have no idea. It's funny. Speaking of bots, it's kind of a tangent, but you know how in Battle for Azeroth they're doing those island expeditions.
Yes.
And those are bringing advanced AI to the table.
Yep.
So I read a comment the other day. The guy's like, I wonder if they literally replaced everyone in LFR with advanced AI, if we would even.
You would never know. I'm surprised there isn't some huge conspiracy theory about that.
It would
Actually,
probably be way easier. It would probably be like way easier. But
they wouldn't stand in the fire. Yeah, they wouldn't.
We didn't wipe once. What the hell?
Exactly. But yeah, it's just, you know, being able to talk to people, meet people in your community, and obviously, you know, it's just the gameplay, just the way it's structured, delayed gratification, challenges, immersion. Things take time. You earn something, for God's sake. Like, you know, this sounds crazy, but if somebody came up to me tomorrow and was like, "Here's a Ferrari," I'd be like, "Oh, thank you." You know, I'm not gonna say no. Right. But at the same time, you know, would I feel the same way if I busted my tail off and I was successful and I bought my own Ferrari? Dude, it'd be a completely different experience, completely different feeling. And I feel like that's the feeling that was in vanilla.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. So I was... Go ahead. Sorry, Defcamp.
I just want to say about that, like, you know, what I'm doing right now, like in my field, it's the same thing. Like when I speak to people who get something right off the bat just by getting it, it's like, you didn't put anything into it. But when you do something yourself, when it's your idea and you say, I'm going to go for this, I'm going to get it, and you reach that goal and you get to it, it's so much more rewarding. And when you're just handed something that it's, you know what I mean, and it's like, it feels, you know, today epics feel like not even like greens anymore. Like you get a green back in the day when you're wearing all grays, it's like, oh my god, you know, this is a big upgrade.
Yeah, I have 10 more hit points.
Nowadays you might get something that's like 20 eye levels up, and it's not even an upgrade because it doesn't have the right stats, or it doesn't have this, or it's, you know, and it's just like ridiculous. You know, we put so much time. That was the thing. I was putting so much time into the game, you know, because I just recently quit retail and I was doing the mythic rating and all that, and I was putting so much time and effort into it, and I felt like I was getting nothing in return. Exactly. And it felt more like a job than it did like a game. Exactly. And, you know, even I've tried every aspect of it. I've tried the PvP aspect. I've tried the casual aspect. I've tried the mythic rating, hardcore progression aspect, and none of it is anything like the original game, the vanilla BC. None of it. Not even close.
I absolutely agree. And you mentioned, you know, the gear not feeling rewarding. And Melderon mentioned the whole 10 hit points thing. Like you get a green in vanilla, you get 10 plus hit points. Part of the reason why that's so satisfying is obviously it takes a lot longer to get the gear. But when you get it, because the world is so dangerous in vanilla, like you pull more than one mob, good luck. You know, you pull more than two, get ready to run back, you know?
Exactly.
That 10 hit points, you see tangibly how it helps you out in the world. You can see the result right away. Okay, I'm taking less damage. I'm having to eat less frequently, you know, stuff like that.
Yep.
I can survive against 2 mobs now versus I couldn't before. In modern WoW, I feel like me, I don't even know what my item level is, maybe like 930 or something like that. I feel like it hasn't been, you know, when my item level is 850, it's the same thing as 930. Instead of taking, you know, 5 seconds to kill something, it takes me 4.5 seconds to kill something. You know, if that, you know what I mean? And I'm still, you know, from the second I hit 110, when I'm still in my greens, I'm still able to round up 20 mobs and blade storm them down.
Yep.
So it's like you don't feel the power that you get from the gear and raids do anything for you other than make your raid DPS higher, which is like, okay, the numbers are bigger. Who cares, you know?
Yeah. That too, and the emphasis that is put on numbers nowadays. Like it's such a big deal. Like, and the whole thing with parsing, I made a whole rant about this on my first DefTalk, but like everyone's obsessed with, you got to have the highest. You can have the highest parse, but be the worst player in the guild because you can just stand there and every mechanic focus on getting your DPS high, have the healers heal you, and be the worst player in the guild because you are doing nothing for the guild. You're doing nothing for the progression. You're just trying to get the highest numbers. That doesn't make you a good player. That just makes you an asshole for trying to get the highest numbers and putting the rest of the guild at risk. And I hate that. I hate how the emphasis has been put on the numbers and not the guild together as, hey guys, we're going to go in there together, you know, the communication, the skills to work together. You know what? I might be a healer who has to, or you might be a mage who has to sit there and dispel curses the whole time. You're not going to be able to do the DPS like all the rest of the mages, but your job is still just as important as a DPS is because you have to sit there and decurse everybody. You're not going to have a good parse at the end of the day, but guess what? You helped that guild kill that boss. You're just as important as the person who's on top of those DPS charts. And that does not happen today. It's all about the DPS. It's all about the healing meters. And I hate that. It's not because I was always at the bottom of the meters. That's not why. You guys can look up my friggin' WoW, whatever it was. But, because people say, oh, it's just because you suck. But that's not the point. You know what I mean? It's like having to worry about every time, what's my parse going to be? As a guild, you shouldn't be worrying about that. You should be worrying about the progression and what you guys can do together. But that's what it's become. It hasn't become that. Yeah. I hate that. I friggin' hate it.
I'm with you, man. Preach, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
I get so emotional about this. Oh my God.
So, all right, let's just switch gears a little bit. So, Josh Corbett over at Countdown the Classic has deemed the changes versus no change debate of 2018. He's deemed that this huge, and there's a lot of vitriol on the comments and on everywhere, Reddit, everywhere. So I know where you stand. I think everyone knows your no changes, but why are you no changes?
Well, fundamentally, I think something that a lot of people disagree with this, but I think that if you look at every single change that was made to World of Warcraft since vanilla, you could make a very strong case for that change, including the worst changes that ever happened, LFG, LFR. I mean, I could probably sit down with somebody and compose a very good argument for why those tools not only were great, features, but they would improve socialization in the game. They would improve community. When it comes to features and games, you can argue the logic and you can, make any feature seem like the greatest thing in the world. But the problem is, as human beings, we don't digest games on a logical level. When I play a game, I'm not thinking to myself, "Ooh, very logical. This is a great feature because this is so aligned." You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
It's all visceral emotion. Like, it's just like emotionally, how do I feel about this? It's fun or it's not fun. You can't debate it. It's not logic. It doesn't matter. And so I feel like when it comes to changes with Vanilla WoW, we had this great game, this incredible game, this imperfect game. But even though it was imperfect, I'm not willing to listen to somebody, give me a very dressed up, sugar-coated, presentation of this feature that could make the game better when the game was already great. And I've heard other features that could have made the game better. And of course, we've seen they made the game worse. So
absolutely.
For me, there's no way of knowing a change could be good. So why risk the integrity of the original game and the experience of the original game when we know that these changes may not succeed and historically speaking have not succeeded? So that's kind of like my overarching, that's like my principle. But then also at the same time, I think changes, obviously you have the Pandora's box, the slippery slope, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
You allow one change. Well, now you open the door for 1 billion other changes, for example. And of course, at the end of the day, as much as, I make content, but I want to play vanilla, man. And I want to play vanilla before, 2064. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it simple. Let's keep the game how it was. At least we can all agree on that. At least we've seen it successful on Nostalrius. I mean, that's, for Blizzard, that's probably the thing they're looking at. That's one of the reasons. I think that's the biggest compass for them when it comes to development. They're going like, okay, we see these guys, they succeeded in the modern day, which is really important. Let's kind of look at what they did and build around that. I think that's kind of going to be their approach because, again, if you change something, even if you keep things, one-to-one as they were in vanilla, maybe that doesn't work today. You have to keep it, you have to look at the others who have succeeded with your product too. And all of those things combined is why I'm no changes, basically.
I understand. That's a good point. So what would be your perfect, I think you made a video about this, but what would be your perfect vanilla launch? Patch-wise, itemization.
So fundamentally, I think that you cannot have a one-to-one rollout of vanilla. One-to-one meaning that an exact identical patch, everything about 1.1 is 1.1. Everything about 1.2 is 1.2. You can't have a legit one-to-one rollout because ultimately there were bugs in the game. And we know about a lot of the bugs. You can find them in the patch notes. But there are also a lot of unintended exploits in the game, like wreck bombing Kazakh. That wasn't categorized as a bug back then. So it's very difficult to say, we want a one-to-one rollout but no bugs because a lot of the exploits in the game were never categorized as bugs to begin with. And so when I looked at it that way, I thought to myself, okay, so we can never have a 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 as it was. It's just not going to happen. It would be way too much work to go back into every single patch, fix the bugs, and determine, okay, which of these class changes fixed exploits and which of these class changes were balance related. You're just asking so much from the developers at that point, and you're extending the launch date of WoW. Which, come on, man, we want to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, from like a class balancing and a user interface standpoint, again, in patch 1.1, you didn't have extra action bars.
Right.
So that's a big problem. In patch 1, you didn't have a dressing room, so you couldn't like control click an item and see how it looked like on your character. There were so many small interface things like that were just better in 1.12.1. I would have those interface changes, those class balancing changes, even though it means Alliance is better than Horde, unfortunately. I would prefer that to be there at the launch, and then a progressive content rollout. So, Molten Core at the start, but then you roll out with Blackwing Lair and AQ, based on the original rollout schedule. And when it comes to itemization, I would prefer the original itemization to also progressively roll out.
That's a good point. Yeah.
The problem with vanilla, I don't know if it's a problem, but just it's a reality. We've been playing. Some people have been playing it for years and years and years. And even if you haven't been playing it, the knowledge is just out there now. Yeah. So while I don't think difficulty was exactly what made vanilla great, it definitely played a role into it. We might as well try to preserve that difficulty however we can within the context of no changes. So keep progressive itemization, progressive, even like a lot of people don't talk about the bosses themselves. Progressive boss nerfing.
Yeah,
release the bosses in their original hardcore state. Don't release them in a post-nerf state. Stuff like that. So try to keep the difficulty there, but at the same time, be realistic. It's okay if something existed in vanilla. I don't consider that a change. I don't consider patch 1.12.1 a change. Anything that existed during vanilla, as far as I'm concerned, was vanilla.
Correct. Yeah.
So try to structure the game in such a way that it's got all the great features in it, but at the same time, it preserves the difficulty of the game. Yeah. That's kind of my compass, personally.
I actually, for a long time, I was on the exact same point, but I've spoken to a few people, and I think it's a little bit selfish for me too, because I didn't personally experience a 1.1. I didn't come in until 1.8, 1.9, and I'm kind of hopeful in thinking that Blizzard can maybe produce a 1.1 launch talent-wise, without the bugs and without the oversights that were in the game, and thinking that it wouldn't be too difficult. A big thing for me is I think it would make the progression, like Molten Core and BWO, a lot more interesting, a lot more difficult with that.
Absolutely.
Think about the itemization, think about so many things, so many factors go into it. A lot of spellcasters would not have the damage, and it would be really interesting. And I kind of think that maybe there's a way that Blizzard can do that, but I do also see the pros. I see both sides of the coin here, and I've been on the fence with this for a while, but I'm kind of leaning more towards the 1.1 start, just because personally for me, I think that would be. It would also be something different than private servers, right? It would be a way for Blizzard to differentiate themselves between private servers. They would have that 1.1 start, and then also be able to, I'm sure a lot of people also didn't experience that 1.1 start, and a lot of people like myself, maybe they did, and like yourself, maybe they did, but they never got to rating. They never got to what it was then, and and also for these people who have been playing private servers for so long. Do they really want almost an exact copy of what Classic's going to be to that? So it's, for me, I do see the positive, the pros and cons to both sides. And it's a really interesting debate, and it's a really interesting topic. And I'm really interested to see what Blizzard's going to do here, because I think they can. I hope they can. That's another thing. Like, do I trust Blizzard to do this right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, would it be easier for them just to do the 1.12 start and just, can we have that and that'll be okay? But do like what I would personally want, but do I trust them to do that? That's the issue.
Exactly. I think the biggest, I guess I should have preluded what I said. For me, there's two types of, what do I want to see or what do I expect to see? There's what do I want to see, ideally in a perfect world. and kind of what do I want to see given some practical considerations.
Right.
Ideally, in a fantasy, like almost a fantasy world, if I knew Blizzard would not be affected whatsoever, and they could deliver it in a timely manner and be able to fix all of the exploits and the bugs without delaying the launch of the game, I would want 1.1 for the exact reasons you stated.
Yeah.
I just think what I'm scared of, and you kind of brought it up, the trusting Blizzard thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be so pessimistic about it. And I don't mean to be like, I don't mean to judge them in that way. But the bottom line is, can they deliver that product within the next year or 18 months? I don't know. I don't think so, man. And the other thing is, the problem. What if they fix an exploit, like a very popular, like two very popular ones aside from the Kazakh one, are Shaman. Okay, so Shaman had Earthbind Totem not on a cooldown, and it would stack with Frost Shock in the beginning of vanilla.
Jeez. Yeah.
So you could slow someone
Kite
down
forever.
Kite forever,
Yeah.
basically. And Nox, Professor Nox, is a Hearthstone YouTuber. I did an interview with him a while back. He played during vanilla, and he rated Nax during vanilla, and he's rated Nax on private. And he was like, believe me, I was there. And he's a little bit older. He was there. He was cognizant. He was rating back then.
Yeah.
He was like, that was a big problem when it was there. And, Blizzard might not look at that and be like, oh, that was an exploit. They might not understand and there was probably a lot of other exploits that existed during that time that just never came to light because there was no YouTube, there was no Twitch,
Correct.
There was no people highlighting them. So it still kind of makes me like, I don't know, it's a risk, but ultimately, would I love, to have a new meta? Would I love to have more challenging content? Would I love it so Spirit, doesn't trigger until, a spell? Like one of the things that happened in vanilla was like in early vanilla, if you were casting a spell, the moment you click the spell, your Spirit would not go on cooldown until after you completed the spell or canceled it. Whereas on private servers, now it's the second you click the spell, your Spirit triggers, the cooldown triggers. So it's like that makes things easier, obviously.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I want the more difficult elements of vanilla. I wish we could have them. If I had to pick, though, I'm just not sure, given the constraints and the time that Blizzard could do it. I don't know, though. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally understand. There's a lot that goes into it, and there's a lot of little things. Like, look how much got passed in the original launch. Who's to say that wouldn't happen again in some other kind of way with the classic launch?
True. So,
what were you going to say, Phil?
Well, I was just so going on with this riffing on the changes versus no changes thing. So if you haven't checked out Tip's video, he does an awesome Frankenpatch video. Check that out. But so we're getting a lot of arguments about, and debates. I shouldn't say arguments. Debates about graphics. Where do you stand on graphics? Do you think we should launch with the original aesthetics and character models, or do you think we should do something a little more updated?
So I'm going to quote Jalen Brack here, or paraphrase this quote.
Yeah.
They're releasing Classic as a way to preserve the game. It's a part of gaming history.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, so thank you, Jay. I have never heard of any preservation efforts, like from a historical standpoint or at museums, where they go, I'm going to preserve, the Rosetta Stone, but, I'm going to clean it up here a little bit, and I'm going to, polish it on these edges and stuff like that. I obviously disagree with updated graphics. Now, there are obviously different degrees of how much we disagree about different features. If you ask me about a cash shop, I would tell you I would never touch Classic WoW if I had a cash shop. If Blizzard had, just the ability to slide one, setting higher when it came to graphics, is that going to prevent me from playing it? No, it won't. But at the same time, I don't think it's worth the development effort. I don't think it's worth delaying Classic beyond what we're already waiting for. And at the end of the day, it doesn't preserve the game. It just goes against that, core principle.
Yeah.
So now, and graphics is one thing, models is another. Regarding the updated models, like the Warlords of Draenor models and beyond, for me, it's a hard no. Like, it's so immersion breaking. I don't care if it's a toggle. I mean, I just don't want to see it. Like, why? You're going to have a guy that looks shiny and new, his character, but then he's going to be wearing freaking chromatic boots.
Exactly.
And it's like, it looks ridiculous,
The comparison.
The comparison, like, it's going to be so off-putting to see these updated models and the old armor models and weapon models. So I don't see who that would benefit. And I do think, it's funny, we talk about changes versus no changes. I've always been asked to find somebody in the community who's pro changes. Everyone's like, interview somebody who's pro changes, talk to somebody who's pro changes. I cannot find this mystical
I know.
being, you know?
Yeah.
Like, who is
They're
this
all
mythical
trolls.
being? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's
They're all trolls.
all trolls. Like anybody, like of all the content creators out there, small, big, I have not found a single one who's actually like, yes, we should change the game. I found people that they're not excited about Classic, but they're still like, keep it how it was. Why would you change it?
There are a couple small things I think that like Soda Pop was talking about having like BGs at the start,
Exactly.
but nothing like huge, nothing like
Nothing. Yeah, I've never seen the mindset of let's make the game better by doing this, and this. You know, I just haven't seen that, and so it's fun to debate on the forums and stuff like that. But I think Blizzard knows. They know what the community wants.
Yeah.
They know that, and they know what their wallet wants. They're not going to reinvest millions of dollars trying to reinvent the wheel when they know the original product would work.
Exactly. So, and I want to thank you for saying about preservation, because I made a vlog about this. And So the thing is, it's like the debate versus no debate, or change versus no change debate is inherently selfish, right? We all want things, but we have to look at like a higher level, and it's about preservation, right? It's about preserving culture. It's about preserving. I call it art. It is art to me, and I think that's the higher calling there. And I want to thank you for saying that, because like I think that a lot of people like say World of Warcraft's not art; it's a game, and I'm like, I tell the people who made the character models and the aesthetics and the music and the code that it's not art. You tell them that. You know what I mean? They spent years working on it. So, but I just wanted to say, but you did highlight something about what your breaking point is. So what would be your breaking point? You said a cash shop is your breaking point. What would make you not play Classic?
Here's how I've always tried to look at it logically. And there's a lot of subjectivity here in gray area. But like, let's not, as much as I, don't endorse and I can't encourage anybody to play on private servers, they exist. They're here. And as it stands now, if I were to put like an arbitrary number on it, the closest Blizz-like private server we have available right now is about 80 to 85% Blizz-like. I would say probably closer to the 80% Blizz-like.
Yeah.
It's very simple for me. It has to be at least within 5 to 10% of that private server Classic WoW does. Otherwise, I wouldn't play. I'm willing to play a 70% Blizz-like experience on an official realm if that meant longevity, great, community management, server uptime, low ping.
Yeah.
It's not something people like to hear me say. They go, "What are you talking about?" But I'm being realistic here. I mean, if it's close enough to what I already know is fun for me and what was fun for me for so long, that's how I try to measure it. Again, a lot of subjectivity, a lot of gray area. Now, there are some just hard line. If this is in there, I'm not playing. Cash Shop is one of them. If the Cash Shop is enrolled, if you can buy an item that affects your Classic gameplay in any way, I'm done. Thank you very much. We're done here. If there is a non-endemic change that did not occur between patch 1.1 and patch 1.12.1, I'm done. I don't care what it is. If it's guild banks, I'm not. I know it can help. I'm not playing. That's too much for me. But if it's some adjustments here and there, the population cap being raised instead of 3,000 to be 5,000, I prefer the kind of the 3,000 mark. But is that again? That would be maybe less than 80% close to Blizzard. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't consider that a hard stop.
What about BNet? What about BNet? But see, my thing is, I can understand BNet integration, but my issue is the ability to speak to the other faction.
Yeah. Okay. I'm scared of something, guys. I was going to make a video about it, but I think it's just better to talk about it here, honestly. So in Battle for Azeroth, I've been playing the beta for a while now, playing the alpha before that. They just released a feature called Communities. And one of the cool parts of this feature is that in World of Warcraft, you can essentially create a Discord channel within WoW. Not official, it's not Discord, but it's like Discord.
Yeah.
Within WoW to talk to people across realms and cross faction even.
Wow.
I think that's fine in the modern game. The problem is this feature extends to BattleNet overall. You can have a BattleNet community based on your battle tags, and you can communicate cross faction in a Discord channel in the game. It seems like they're going to be doing this with all of Activision Blizzard titles. They've got all the icons for all the different Blizzard games and even like Call of Duty and stuff like that. It's just going to be a core feature in the BattleNet client. You're going to be able to communicate with people cross-platform even, not just cross-faction stuff. that should not, that will not, hopefully, ever come to Classic WoW, because Classic WoW, especially the PvP servers, it's all about the animosity, it's all about the rivalry, it's all about not knowing who that person is, having no way to communicate with that freaking human rogue that keeps ganking me.
Exactly.
It creates a culture of like rivalry, which I think is very core to the original game.
Yep.
I hope
scary.
It's scary. It's scary. Look, I don't want to say they're going to include it in Classic, but I hope that Blizzard understands how impactful BNet is when it comes to like an in-game standpoint with Classic. It's not just a convenient chat feature. No, it affects things like the Devil Sword Mafia. It affects world boss timers and world boss camping. It affects frickin' Black Lotus farming. It affects everything. So I hope that they don't include anything like that. The extent that I want to see BNet is maybe I open up BNet and there's the Classic WoW button. I press it and now I'm in my Classic WoW world and nothing else there.
Yes. Yeah. And, we've talked about this before because we had people, debate with us and say, well, back in the day, there was always ways to talk to the opposite faction. Yes, but it was very much a lot smaller. And you had to go through a lot of hoops. I never, if I had to find this, go to a forum, talk to this, be able to get to the forum, then find it, download this, and I wouldn't go through all that. It deterred me from doing it. And of course, there were the few people who had their channels on Vent that talked to the opposite faction, and that's as far as it should be. There should be no way in game to be able to talk to someone from the opposite faction. That is everything against every core vanilla belief that I have. I mean, it's like like you said, you want to be able to be in the world and feel like that person over there that's red is your enemy, and there's no connection you have other than he's either Alliance or Horde, and I'm there to kill him. And that is what is so important about, and I think it brings the community even closer together for what faction you are on, because you feel like, yes, this is my team, this is my home, these are my people, this is the Alliance, this is the Horde, this is my realm, this is my community. And if there's an ability to speak with it, it breaks that. And for me, it would be a big no. And I think that would be something that would deter me from playing if that was in the game, because I think it would have huge implications. I do.
I absolutely agree. And something you brought up, Defcamp, the argument of, this already existed back then, Vent already existed back then. It seems like people always try to prop up this straw man. They don't understand that there's different degrees of things. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you guys are in some Philly paraphernalia here, okay? Yes. Yeah. So it's like if somebody asked you, would you guys want to play against, Tom Brady in the NFC Championship, the Patriots, for example, or would you want to play against the Dallas Cowboys? All right, just throwing up names here.
Oh, okay? Cowboys. Yeah.
Exactly. The argument that I see, like the people talking about the Discord thing, is saying like, it doesn't matter which one because they're both football teams. Well, yeah, but one's better than the other. What I mean?
And plus the rivalry between the Philadelphia and Dallas is immense.
Exactly. It's like there's varying degrees when it comes to this stuff. If something is 90% prevalent in a certain version of the game and 40% prevalent in the other version of the game, and I'd rather it be less prevalent, or more prevalent depending on what I want to see. Yep. So even though Vent existed, there is no documented record of the Devil Sword Mafia existing in vanilla. Okay, I tried. When I made my video, I looked everywhere. I scoured the internet. I couldn't find it. Obviously, some things just didn't exist back in vanilla because there weren't the resources of today. Those resources do have an impact beyond what existed in vanilla, which is why I think they should be minimized. This kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Discord exists. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So obviously, the community is an aspect that's important to all of us. But for me, the community is definitely something that I want to see in Classic. I want to see that vanilla community. So what are some things you think that we can do as, the players, as content creators, as whatever, to try to bring that community, that vanilla community over to Classic?
I think it starts from now, preparation. Doing things like creating Discord channels from now, just to bring the community together. Creating videos that you think people can kind of bond over and talk about, inciting discussion, participating on forums, whether it be the official forums, whether it be Reddit, just engaging in the community. I think people will naturally kind of get to know each other. It happens all the time. I read somebody's comment and I send them a PM. Dude, right on. I really like what you said there,
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa. I think one of the probably one of the biggest questions right now for me when it comes to Classic is going to be the server population sizes. That's going to affect everything in the game, especially the community. If we have a 3,000 pop server or a 10,000 pop server, that changes the dynamics of everything. And, kind of understanding that we'll probably get no changes, we'll probably get maybe 3,000 people on a server, doing what you can to make sure those 3,000, whichever server you roll on, as many of them as possible are like-minded. And even if they're not like-minded, even if they're noobs, at least have them kind of, communicate with them, reach out to them, and kind of start, creating those bonds from the get-go.
Absolutely. I think it's important for us as not only as, the people who have the experience, but the people that are willing to reach out and give that information to the new players, to the people who haven't experienced it. And, there's going to be a lot of new people or people who never even played WoW and not know what to expect. And, that for me was one of the biggest draws to the game, is there were so many people willing to help me. Going into a dungeon and me not even knowing what I was doing, and somebody saying, hey, do this, that, and the other, not being how it is nowadays. Like, what are you, an idiot? Are you retarded? Are you this? Like, that's what it is nowadays. Like, hey, priest, why aren't you healing? You know what I mean? And back, for me, my experience was, when I played, even on private servers for the most part, is people willing to help, people willing to be that guide. And I think as the people with the experience, we have to, if you're willing to do that. And I think that right there will be huge. Just being able and willing to help somebody out, to show them, maybe give them a gold if they need a gold to train. Maybe doing those little things, it definitely creates the environment in which that person will pass it on to another person, and it creates that environment where it's that true, companionship and that true, really awesome vanilla community that we all love.
Absolutely. I agree. Like, it's funny. I made some a list of 30 goals yesterday on stream of what I wanted to do for vanilla, like my goals for Classic. A lot of them were high-end goals that I've never done before, get rank 14, stuff like that. But then, after I made that list, I was thinking about it. I remember the first time somebody helped me in vanilla back in 2004. And just this one guy took me on a tour of Ironforge. I had no idea what these cities were, what they did. And I'm just like, you know what? I hope I can extend that same courtesy to other people, just reciprocate and kind of keep that tradition of community going in vanilla, because it's almost funner to see a noob get a piece of gear or a noob grow than it is to see you get that piece of gear or you grow. Because it becomes so what you see the impact that it has on them and stuff. That feeling, it's a nice feeling to chase. And, selfishly at the same time, it's great for the community too. Mm-hmm. So I completely agree. I feel I know we've kind of been isolated in our own, vanilla player world for the past, number of years, but you got to understand when Classic launches, I would say probably 80% of the people playing it, 70 to 80% will probably be people who either never played vanilla before, or they're just starting with vanilla again, just by sheer numbers at the end of the day. And, it's important to make sure that there is no us versus them. There is no, elitist versus what non-elitist. Just do what you can to be a positive member in your community, and it will echo on the server, and it will make for a better server experience overall, I think.
Absolutely.
Yep, definitely. So, so let's talk about your content before we say bye. But I just wanted to your content is, I have to say, it's phenomenal. You put a lot of work. You plan them out. You can definitely tell. You write scripts. You are very good at editing. They're very good, and I aspire to actually get to that level at some point. I think you're a great content creator. And I have to say, my favorite video by far is your nostalgia one, where you break down with numbers, not just your feelings, how both successful Nost was, that there were a lot of young people playing Nost that people no one would have ever thought. And so the Nost post-mortem, you went in, you delved into it, and you broke it apart, and you really made the nostalgia. It's just nostalgia argument. You really made it. You really squashed it. So what is your favorite video that you've made? Your own video that you think you did, and what are some plans for the future for your content?
It's kind of crazy. I appreciate it, by the way. I loved making it's not just nostalgia video,
Yeah.
like, because that was it was almost like a personal, like I had a personal investment in it. Like, I'm sick of hearing that argument. I wanted, uncover the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm kind of my own worst critic. I hate all my videos. Like, fundamentally, because I see the blemishes.
Yes.
And 6 months ago, I was 3 months ago, I was a contractor. 6 months ago, I never done any video editing in my life. I picked up Wondershare for Filmora, and I just watched some videos, and I tried to figure it out. But
impressive.
It was it's great. There's a lot of resources on YouTube. I always tell people, like, if you put in the time, you can improve if you just like go to the resources. But for me, the videos that I really like doing, they're probably not my best ones, but the ones that aren't scripted. So like my old dungeon guides that I used to do, the BlizzCon 2005 panels, the things where I get to like kind of almost re-experience the game, listen to the developers, and kind of give commentary on them. Those are my favorite videos. Only because I feel like I'm not making the video. I feel like I'm just a guy on his computer and just talking about World of Warcraft, and there could be somebody on the other screen and we're just chatting about it. Those are always my favorite stuff to do. And so interviews, stuff like that, talking to other people mostly. Yeah,
I love your interviews, and I love your BlizzCon, your 2005 look. I love, that's one of my favorite videos, honestly. And from another content creator, I love doing like non-scripted videos. They don't come out as good. They never do. I say a lot, or I do this. I think a lot, but you try to edit that out. But for that's usually, it comes from the heart, and it's what you're thinking at that moment. And I love seeing that from other content creators. And unfortunately, those aren't usually the best viewed videos or the most noticeable by other. It's usually the scripted, the stuff in your face. It's usually here's what I'm talking about, this that, quick. That's usually the ones
instant gratification.
Yeah,
exactly.
And but I love seeing, and it's rare when you see someone, the passion like bleed through, and with you, of course, as fan, stay safe, those guys. But a lot of the times, I'm not going to name any names, but like other content creators, retail, whatever, it's just very dry and very cut and paste, and you don't feel the emotion. And I definitely feel the emotion. And I was wondering, who are some people that you have influenced you in the past?
Oh man, Total Biscuit, rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
For me personally, he was the reason why I wanted to get into content creation. I remember his Cataclysm beta coverage way back in the day. I remember the first day I was just on my computer. It was the summer. I was on YouTube, and it comes across my way, Worgen Starting Zone. And I watched this video, and it's just a video of a dude talking about the game. And at the time, the only World of Warcraft videos online were like crazy PvP montages, machinima, or like tank spot guides. Like,
I remember tank spot. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like you had like boss guides, machinima, and PvP. You never had commentary in World of Warcraft, like before Total Biscuit, I feel. And I watched that video, and like literally that video ended, and I was like, I just want to do this. I want to do this. That's it. If there's a way to make money doing this, I want to do it. And this was 8 years ago. Unfortunately, life, obligations, whatever.
Yep.
You make excuses for yourselves. You guys know. You guys started recently, right?
Yeah. I started about 2 years ago. But like, so I'm in graduate school right now. So my time commitment is, I can't put a lot of time towards it. So, but I know. So those 2 years for me were very slow. I put out like a video now and then. So I know what you're talking about. I definitely.
But recently we've been doing a lot more. So
exactly. Yeah. And you guys know the pain of wanting to do something, but feeling like something is like grad school or your job, or it's just pulling you back. You're like, dude, I want to dedicate. Yeah. So I struggled with that for a lot of years. And after the Classic announcement, I was just like, I don't care. Like I was the busiest I have ever been. And I was just like, I don't care. I'm working 80 hours a week. I'll add on another 20. I'll do something just to work towards it.
Wow.
And it was hell for a while. And then you're still struggling day by day, right? Trying to grow and whatnot.
Yeah.
But But at the end of the day, I can't regret it. It's been amazing, and I'm glad, just to be a part of this. Glad to meet guys like yourself, cool people like you guys. I think it's awesome, man.
You have definitely been a welcoming person into this community, and I think you yourself, Esfan, Stay Safe in particular, you guys have been, ever since the Classic Cast, and you yourself with your videos, it's just been like you guys have kind of been the face of Classic now, and I feel like what better people, honestly. I really feel like you guys have done so much positive for this community, and I just want to personally thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, but thank you guys. Like, I watch your guys' stuff. I think the first video I saw from you guys, I saw the graphics one. There's one you guys did a while back about the leaks. I saw that one too.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot. I mean, you guys have great content, and there's one I remember where Melderon, you were in a park, I think, and you were just talking about, like stuff like that. I love to see it. The more content creators in the community, as far as I'm concerned, the better. I struggle every day, like when I'm in the bathroom, like, all right, I want to watch a Classic WoW video, but I've already seen them all,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm waiting for notifications sometimes. I'm like, maybe Tips is making a video today. Or like maybe someone. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Definitely. Yeah.
So the more the merrier, and chill dudes like you guys, honestly, like it's amazing to see the community come together. Like, the Classic community, again, it gets a lot of flack. But it's the best community I've ever been in. Like,
absolutely.
Forget Dota, forget any other game. Classic community, it's people who genuinely love the game.
Yep.
And I'm just excited to see guys like yourself on the up and coming, improve, do better. I can't wait to see more of your videos, and everybody else as well. People who want to make content. I'm just excited to watch what's to come. So
absolutely.
Thanks, Tips.
Well, if you guys want to check Tips out, we have his links here if you can see them, but you're constantly streaming. I see you streaming all the time. That's awesome. You're doing really good with that. And you're also on YouTube and any other plugs you want to put out there?
Yeah, so go ahead and plug away. Yep.
To be honest, YouTube and Twitch, basically I've been streaming more. But I want to give a shout out to a couple of people. First of all, Defcamp and Melderon, genuine guys. They love Classic WoW. You can see it in their content. Check out their videos. They do a great job.
Thanks.
No, thank you. And honestly, a lot of other guys on the up and coming. Countdown to Classic. I've got to apologize to him. I've been really flaky with him, but check him out. He does podcast stuff. And some of the guys in the private community that I feel like they don't always get the recognition they deserve. Monkey News, Carosity, Final Flash, so many guys. Stormax, like.
Stormax,
These are like the Pats and the Maydais of today.
Yes.
And we do commentary and stuff like that, and I feel like I wish those guys got a little bit more spotlight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So props to all of those guys. You know who you are. Shibo, you guys know those guys that are skilled on private servers, clearing content, doing a great job. Shout out to all you guys. I can't wait to see your guys' content in the future.
Yes.
And S-Fan, stay safe. Everybody else.
S-Fan.
Everybody knows S-Fan.
There really are some great up-and-coming people coming, and some people who don't get the recognition they deserve. And I'm so glad you did that, because what we're trying to do with this show too is bring some of the up-and-coming people. We have people like yourself, and we have people that are new in the community, and also just people in the community. There's so many passionate people out there that deserve to get the recognition. And thanks for doing that. But dude, Tips, it was awesome having you today, man.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
No problem, dude. This is chill. This is amazing. I'm glad we did this. And honestly, I'd be down for 3 more hours.
Let's make it to 24 hours. No, I'm just joking. No, Tips, thanks for being here, man. And if you ever want to collab in the future, man, let us know. We could probably do something. But so, guys, if you haven't, so Matt, go ahead, do your outro.
Yeah, guys. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. Check out Tips Out Babies on check out his Discord, check out his YouTube, check out his Twitch. Guys, this is another episode of DefTalk. What is it? Episode 6? 6 episodes.
Yeah, one of the 6 or 7.
Episode 6 or 7. Yeah. Either way, guys, thank you for coming out and watching, and we love you. Until next time, guys, this is Defcamp
and Melderon.
And tips.
And tips. Okay.
That's okay. Signing off.
Signing out, guys. Have a good one.
See ya.